The predator's first mistake was thinking Earth was quiet. From orbit, the blue-green planet had seemed almost defenseless, its oceans glinting like shards of glass, forests spilling endless shades of green, deserts stretching like a giant's parchment. To a mind bred for the hunt, it looked like easy prey, lush with life and slow-moving animals. The second mistake, perhaps the more dangerous one, was assuming humans were predictable. Grask, the predator in question, had stalked the stars for over 2 centuries. He had hunted on 6 continents across 4 different worlds, wrestled megafauna twice his size, and consumed creatures that could melt steel with a breath. His species, the Galactic, were famed across the galaxy for one simple reason: they did not lose. Predation was their art, their religion, and their currency. To prove oneself among the Galactic, one needed to seek out new prey and return with trophies. A hunter who failed became the prey of his rivals. Grask's shuttle landed in a forest clearing on the northern continent of Earth with a satisfying crunch of metal against soil. He emerged tall and towering, his black carapace gleaming in the starlight. Each movement was fluid and silent, his talons curved like knives, his vision sharper than any hawk. His mandibles clicked softly as he inhaled the air. Oxygen-rich, fertile, buzzing with life. Perfect. He had read the crude galactic records on humans. Bipedal primates. Tool users. Social. Aggressive only when threatened. In short, not worth the trouble. But the Galactic Council had recently begun whispering rumors of Earth's hidden defenses. Something about how humans had fended off species much stronger than themselves in the past. Grask scoffed. The Council was always looking for excuses to slow hunts. If the humans had survived, it was luck, nothing more. Tonight, he would prove that. He skulked through the forest, moving like shadow, scanning with infrared. Small animals darted, deer, raccoons, rabbits, birds. Some watched him with curious eyes before bounding away. Harmless. Unworthy. He wanted human prey. He wanted to test their myths. Then he heard it, a bark. Sharp, loud, and almost comical. The sound split the night like a war cry and froze Grask in his tracks. His head turned slowly, sensors recalibrating. The creature that emerged from the trees was not human, not formidable, not even remotely threatening. A quadruped, fur-covered, tail wagging with enthusiasm. A domestic canine. It charged him with reckless abandon. Grask tilted his head. The thing was small, half his height, its teeth laughable compared to his own. Yet there was no fear in its eyes, only joy, energy, and something Grask did not understand. The dog barked again, circling him as if daring the mighty predator to play. Play? Grask extended a claw experimentally, flicking it near the creature's nose. Instead of retreating, the dog jumped, nipped the air, and let out a noise somewhere between a growl and a squeal of delight. Its tail wagged harder, thumping against the trees like a drum. This was no hunt. This was absurd. Grask was still processing the bizarre display when a human voice cut through the woods. "Scout! What are you barking at this time of night?" A figure appeared, a young woman in her late 20s, flashlight in hand, bundled in a worn jacket. Her hair was tied back hastily, her boots muddy from forest soil. She froze when her light fell on Grask, 6.5 feet of armored alien predator towering over her beloved pet. For a long, tense moment, predator and human locked eyes. Grask waited for the usual reaction: panic, screaming, flight. Instead, the woman sighed, rubbing her temple. "Of course. I tell you to stay close to the cabin, and you find a cosplayer on steroids." "Cosplayer?" Grask blinked, unsure whether to lunge or laugh. The woman's voice dripped with weary sarcasm rather than terror. She didn't even reach for a weapon. Instead, she whistled, and the dog bounded back to her side, tail still wagging furiously. "Look, buddy," she said, shining the light up and down Grask's carapace. "Halloween's not until next week. And if you're gonna dress up like an alien bug man, at least don't sneak up on people in the woods. That's how you get shot." Grask's mandibles twitched. Did she not understand what stood before her? Did she not see the galaxy's strongest predator? Her dog barked again, straining against her hand as if desperate to return to him. The human chuckled. Scout likes you, which is weird. He usually hates strangers. Guess you're not all bad. Not all bad. Grask felt insult ripple through him. His claws flexed, eager to demonstrate what bad truly meant. But something stopped him. Not fear. He did not know fear. Curiosity, perhaps. This human, her composure unsettled him. She spoke to him like an equal, not prey. Fine, she said at last, turning back toward the path. Come on, Scout. Let's get inside before Bugman here decides to start charging rent. With that, she walked away. The dog gave Grask one last joyful bark before trotting after her. Grask stood rooted, every instinct warring with confusion. This was wrong. Prey should run. Prey should cower. Prey should bleed. Instead, the human had dismissed him like a neighbor dropping by uninvited. The council's whispers stirred in his memory. Hidden defenses. Unpredictable behavior. A species that never reacted the way you expected. He clicked his mandibles. Perhaps they had not exaggerated after all. Grask followed. From the shadows, silent and unseen, he tracked the woman back to her cabin at the forest's edge. Lights glowed warmly from the windows. The dog curled near the porch, still occasionally barking at squirrels. Inside, the human moved with a relaxed ease, humming faintly to herself as she poured water into a kettle. Grask crouched in the tree-line, observing. His initial goal had been simple: test humanity's defenses by hunting one of them. But now, something had shifted. He had not anticipated the dog, nor the strange interaction. He needed to understand. The night deepened. Crickets sang. The forest breathed. And for the first time in a century of hunts, Grask felt something entirely new creep into his mind: doubt. By the time dawn began bleeding orange across the horizon, Grask had not moved. The woman had slept. The dog had slept. And still he watched. When the human finally emerged onto the porch, stretching and sipping from a steaming mug, her eyes flicked briefly toward the tree-line. I can see you, you know, she called casually. Grask froze. Impossible. His camouflage was flawless. No prey had ever detected him when he chose to remain hidden. The dog barked twice, wagging its tail like it agreed. The woman smirked. If you're gonna stalk someone, at least bring breakfast. Coffee, maybe? Or is that too advanced for bug aliens? Something inside Grask snapped. Not anger, but fascination. She treated him not as a monster, nor as prey, but as a neighbor? An annoyance? Perhaps even, though the thought was absurd, an equal. The hunt was no longer about trophies. It was about discovery. Grask would learn why this species, so frail in body, could stand before predators without trembling. And somehow, he knew the answer lay not in their weapons, nor their walls, but in the wag of a dog's tail. The galaxy's strongest predator had never been ignored before. Hunted, yes. Fought, yes. Worshipped in fear, certainly. But ignored? Grask found the sensation infuriating and strangely intriguing. The woman, she had not yet given her name, moved about her small cabin as though the armored shadow in the trees did not exist. She fed her dog, ruffled his fur, and laughed at something on a glowing screen inside her kitchen. All while Grask crouched outside, cloaked, mandibles flexing in disbelief. His claws dug furrows into the soil. He could have ended her life 100 times during the night. A single strike. A single bite. That was how predators proved dominance. Yet something stayed his hand. Each time he tensed, the dog would bound toward the porch, barking furiously until the woman called him back. The dog. Scout, she had called it. Grask's mind gnawed at the puzzle. The creature was not strong, its teeth no sharper than a rodent's compared to KLYTH armor. Its body was frail, its fur laughable protection against claw or fang. Yet it barked with reckless courage, placing itself between its human and the galaxy's most efficient killer. Why? When the sun fully crested, burning away the shadows, the woman stepped off her porch and into the woods, leash in hand. "Come on, Scout. Time for your walk." Grask followed. He stalked at a distance, silent as mist, watching how the human moved. She walked casually, humming a tune, occasionally tossing a stick for Scout to chase. The dog sprinted after it, tail whipping like a flag, then bounded back proudly with the stick clamped in his jaws. Each time, the human praised him. "Good boy, Scout," she said, ruffling his ears. The dog's joy radiated like heat. Grask could feel it. Not just obedience, bond. It unsettled him. Among the KLYTH, loyalty was coerced through dominance. Strength ruled. Weakness was purged. Yet here, the weaker creature protected the stronger. Or was it the other way around? He could not tell. Hours passed. Grask tracked them through the forest, until finally, the woman paused at a stream. She crouched to fill a canteen, and Scout darted into the water, splashing with abandon. The human laughed at the sight, her voice carrying easily through the trees. "Seriously, Scout? You just had a bath." Grask's mandibles twitched. Her tone, gentle, amused, almost affectionate, was unlike any he had known. Predators did not laugh at weakness. They punished it. Yet she nurtured this creature as though it mattered. And the strangest part, the dog grew braver because of it. Grask was still analyzing when disaster struck. A shadow streaked across the treetops. A low hum vibrated through the air. Grask recognized it instantly, KLYTH. Another hunter. His rival, perhaps, or worse, an opportunist. The KLYTH often followed rumors of exotic prey. If word had spread of Earth's hidden defenses, then others might be circling, eager for a trophy. Grask cursed silently. This was his hunt. His discovery. He would not allow interference. The other hunter's shuttle descended in a clearing not far from the stream. The woman, oblivious, continued filling her canteen. But Scout's ears perked. He barked sharply, spinning toward the sound. Grask tensed. From the shuttle emerged Drath, a brute even among KLYTH. Bulkier, heavier, his mandibles scarred from countless hunts. His armor gleamed with the blood of at least a dozen species. He carried a shock spear, its tip crackling with blue fire. Drax scanned the forest, eyes narrowing when they fell on the woman. His mandibles clicked in amusement. So this is humanity. Fragile. Small. Unworthy. The woman stood, startled by the sudden booming voice. What the hell, another one? Did Comic-Con set up in my woods or something? She took a step back, pulling Scout close by his leash. The dog growled, for bristling. Drath chuckled. This will be a short hunt. He raised his spear. Grask moved. Before the strike could land, Grask launched from the trees, colliding with Drath in a clash of claws and fury. The forest exploded with sound, the crackle of energy, the screech of mandibles, the snapping of trees as two apex predators fought for dominance. The woman screamed, yanking Scout away. But even as she fled to cover, her dog barked furiously at the combat, as though ready to leap into the fray himself. Drax snarled. Grask! You dare steal my prey? This world is mine. Grask hissed, claws slashing against armor. Leave it! Drax shoved him back, laughing cruelly. You've gone soft. Protecting prey? That is not the KLYTH way. Their battle tore through the clearing. Sparks flew, dirt churned, trees splintered. The woman crouched behind a fallen log, clutching Scout tightly, eyes wide. She whispered to the dog, voice trembling. Stay with me, boy. Stay. But Scout's eyes never left Grask. His tail stiffened, his body tense, as though he somehow knew the alien who had stalked them was now fighting on their behalf. The clash raged until Drath pinned Grask against a boulder, spear at his throat. Pathetic, Drath growled. The council was wrong. These humans are nothing. Weak. I will take her head as proof. The woman gasped, but before Drath could strike, Scout broke free of her grip. The dog bolted forward, teeth bared, barking with primal rage. He sank his small teeth into Drachtha's armored ankle. The spear faltered. Dracht roared in shock. It did not hurt him, of course it didn't, but the audacity, the sheer defiance of such a tiny creature biting a galactic predator, stunned him. That instant was enough. Grask surged upward, claws flashing, and tore the spear from Drachtha's grasp. With a furious strike, he sent his rival crashing into the trees. The brute staggered, mandibles dripping with venom, then snarled. "This hunt is cursed." Dracht spat. "Keep your pathetic prey. It will not matter when the others arrive." With that, he retreated to his shuttle. Engines roared, and within seconds, the ship vanished into the sky. The forest fell silent. Grask stood panting, claws dripping with alien ichor. His chest heaved with exertion, his carapace scarred from the fight. But he was alive. And more importantly, so were the human and her dog. He turned. The woman stared at him from behind the log, Scout pressed against her chest. Her face was pale, her breath uneven, but her eyes held no fear. Only confusion, curiosity, and something dangerously close to trust. "You saved me," she whispered. Grask opened his mandibles, unsure how to respond. He had not saved her. He had defended his hunt, his discovery. And yet, he could not deny the sight of that small, furious dog biting Dracht had stirred something deep within him. Something he had never felt before. Respect. The woman rose slowly, clutching Scout. "Okay, Bugman. Clearly you're not just some weirdo in a costume. So, what do you want?" Grask tilted his head. What did he want? The answer should have been simple: to prove humans unworthy, to claim a trophy, to return in glory. But the truth had shifted. He no longer saw prey. He saw mystery. He saw courage where none should exist. He saw a tiny creature defying a predator 10 times its size, not out of instinct, but out of love. And he wanted to understand. The woman extended a cautious hand. "I'm Kara," she said. "And this brave idiot is Scout. If you're gonna keep hanging around my woods, we might as well start with names." Grask stared at her hand, then at the dog panting at her side. Slowly, almost reverently, he extended a claw and touched her palm. The galaxy's strongest predator had faced beasts that could swallow cities, but in that moment, he realized none had been as dangerous, or as fascinating, as what stood before him, a fragile human and her loyal dog. And for the first time, he wondered if the real test of strength was not how fiercely one hunted, but how fiercely one protected. The stars did not stay quiet for long. Grask knew Drachtha's words had not been bluster. If one Galactic had discovered Earth, others would follow. A predator's pride could not allow a rival to claim a trophy unchallenged. The hunt would spread like fire, and Earth, fragile, unaware, would become the battlefield. He remained near the cabin for days. At first, Kara was cautious, watching him through narrowed eyes as she tended her garden or chopped wood. Scout, however, had no such hesitation. Each morning, the dog bounded up to Grask, barking joyfully, tail whipping like a metronome. Grask found himself tolerating it. More than tolerating, studying. Every tilt of Scout's ears, every growl at a rustle in the forest, every time the creature planted itself between its human and the unknown. The dog's devotion fascinated him. There was no calculation, no strategy, no demand for dominance. It was loyalty, pure and unyielding. For the first time in centuries, Grask questioned the foundation of Galactic culture. Kara seemed to sense his unease. One evening, she leaned against the porch railing, sipping coffee, her eyes on the sky. "So," she said casually, "you're an alien bugman warrior. You're hanging around my place like you've got nowhere better to be. What's the deal?" Grask tilted his head. Words were crude things for his kind, but he forced them. "Learning." "Learning?" He gestured with a claw towards Scout, who lay curled at Kara's feet. "This creature. It defies predators. Protects." "Why?" Kara blinked then chuckled. "You mean why dogs protect us? That's just what they do. Loyalty. Pack instinct. Love. Love. The words scraped oddly in his mandibles. Yeah, Kara said, scratching Scout's ears. We raised them for thousands of years. They hunt with us, guard us, comfort us. They don't care how big the enemy is. If you mess with their human, they'll stand in the way. Even if it kills them. Grask stared at the small creature, dozing peacefully, completely vulnerable. Yet he remembered Scout's furious bark, his bite on Draktha's armor. Willingness to die, not for survival, but for a bond. The Klyth had no such word. Before Grask could respond, the sky tore open. A thunderous roar shook the trees as 3 Klyth war shuttles descended, their hulls gleaming like obsidian fangs. Engines scorched the clearing, flattening grass and waves. Kara staggered back, shielding her eyes. Scout growled low, teeth bared. Grask's claws flexed. He had expected rivals, but not so many, not so soon. The first shuttle opened, disgorging 2 hunters clad in jagged carapace armor, weapons bristling. The second carried 3 more. The third, larger, heavier, housed a figure Grask recognized instantly. High Hunter Veyr. A legend among their kind, Veyr's hunts were sung across the stars. His carapace bore etchings of 100 kills, his eyes burned with cold fire, and in his claws he carried a war blade rumored to have drunk the blood of titans. Kara swore under her breath. Let me guess. These are your friends? Grask stepped forward, mandibles clicking. No. Rivals. Veyr's voice thundered across the clearing. Grask? You have grown sloppy. Protecting prey? Fighting your own kind? You shamed the Klyth. The smaller hunter snarled agreement, fanning out to encircle the cabin. Kara backed up slowly, clutching Scout. Okay, Bugman. I don't know what's going on, but I'm guessing it's bad. Grask lowered into a crouch, every muscle coiled. Stay. Protect the small one. Kara gaped. Small one? He's a dog. And I'm not just gonna sit here while. Scout barked sharply, cutting her off, as if agreeing with Grask. Veyr raised his blade. This world is ripe with prey. Humanity will fall, and its defenders will become trophies. Stand aside, Grask, or die with them. The Klyth advanced. Grask launched. The clearing erupted into chaos. Claw met blade, talon clashed against spear. The air filled with sparks, screeches, and the thrum of energy weapons. Grask fought with feral precision, every strike fueled not by hunger, but by something far stranger, the memory of a dog's teeth sinking into Draktha's armor, the sight of a human's hand resting on her companion's head. But the hunters were many, and Grask was only one. A spear slashed across his shoulder. A blade carved into his carapace. He roared, staggering, barely deflecting another strike. Kara screamed from the porch. Grask! Scout broke free of her arms and charged, barking furiously. The small dog darted between armored legs, snapping, growling, distracting hunters twice his size. One snarled in irritation, kicking out, but Scout dodged and lunged again, relentless. The distraction gave Grask the opening he needed. He seized a spear, twisted it from a rival's claws, and drove it through the hunter's chest. The body collapsed in a heap. But Veyr advanced, warblade humming with lethal energy. His strikes were swift, precise, each one driving Grask back. The legendary hunter's voice was cold as void. You betray us for prey. You have forgotten what it means to be Klyth. Grask's mandibles dripped with venom. No. I remember. I see strength. Not in dominance. In protection. Veyr snarled. Weakness. Their blades clashed again, sparks lighting the night. Grask faltered, wounds bleeding, his limbs heavy. Veyr pressed harder, driving him toward the cabin. Kara's hands shook as she fumbled with an old hunting rifle mounted above her fireplace. She had never aimed at anything larger than a deer, but as she lifted it, Scout barked beside her, as though urging her on. Her finger hovered over the trigger. Then Veyr struck. The warblade slashed across Grask's chest, dropping him to his knees. The strongest predator in the galaxy staggered, gasping, his vision blurring. Veer raised the blade high for the killing blow. Scout launched. The dog hurled himself at Veer with a snarl that seemed to shake the stars. His teeth sank into the high hunter's wrist. The blade wavered, just for a moment, but enough. Grask surged upward with a roar, driving his stolen spear into Veer's side. The legendary hunter reeled, mandibles screeching in disbelief, before collapsing to the ground. The remaining hunters froze. Their leader fallen? At the jaws of prey and the claws of a traitor? Panic rippled through them. Without a word, they retreated to their shuttles, engines screaming as they fled back to the void. The clearing fell silent. Grask swayed, wounded, blood dripping onto the soil. His gaze fell on Scout, still clamped onto Veer's wrist, refusing to let go until Kara pulled him back gently. The dog wagged his tail, panting, eyes bright with triumph. Grask dropped to one knee, mandibles trembling. He had faced titans, leviathans, creatures that could devour worlds. Yet none had shown courage like this. None had stood, unflinching, against predators born of nightmares. Kara knelt beside Scout, cradling him, tears streaking her face. She looked up at Grask. "You're bleeding bad. We need to get you inside." Grask met her gaze. For the first time in his long, merciless life, he did not see prey. He saw pack. The galaxy's strongest predator had learned what it meant to protect, and in that moment, he realized he was no longer hunting. He was defending. The cabin smelled of blood and coffee. Grask sat hunched in Kara's kitchen, massive shoulders slouched against the wall, his carapace cracked and oozing dark fluid. Every breath rattled through his mandibles. He should have been preparing for death. Among the Kalyth, wounds like these were an honorable end, proof of a life spent hunting, of prey claimed and rivals slain. But instead of letting himself collapse in the soil, he sat at a human table while a woman wrapped torn dish towels around his chest. "This is insane," Kara muttered, tying the cloth tight. "You're built like a tank and bleed like a leaky radiator. I don't even know if this'll help." Grask hissed at the sting, but said nothing. He kept his eyes on Scout, who sat faithfully at Kara's feet, head tilted, watching him with unwavering attention. The dog hadn't left his side since the fight. Kara glanced up at him. "Why did you do it? You could have just left me. Let your friends, or enemies, whatever they are, take me. But you fought them. For us." Grask's mandibles flexed. He struggled to find the words. In his language, there were no terms for friend, no symbols for family, beyond hierarchy and control. Finally, he said, "The small one attacked a predator for you. Without hesitation. Without fear. I had to understand." Kara blinked, then gave a tired laugh. "Scout? He's just a dog. That's what they do. They don't think about odds. They just love." That word again. Love. A sound so soft it seemed absurd to describe the force that had driven a tiny creature to bite the galaxy's deadliest hunters. Yet Grask could not deny its power. He looked at Kara. "Your species. You keep these creatures. Why?" She leaned back, stroking Scout's fur. "Because they make us stronger. They guard us, comfort us, remind us we're not alone. Humans are stubborn as hell, but even we need help sometimes. Dogs give it without asking anything back. They don't care if you're weak or strong. They just stay." Grask felt something stir deep inside, something older than hunger, sharper than instinct. The Kalyth hunted to prove themselves. But perhaps humans survived because they refused to prove themselves alone. Before he could speak, Scout growled low. His ears pricked, his eyes locked on the window. Grask stiffened. He knew that sound. The dog had scented danger. The rumble came moments later, distant thunder, growing louder. Kara jumped to her feet, peering outside. The night sky glowed with descending fire. At least half a dozen ships larger than the last. Her face strained of color. "More of them?" Grask rose slowly, every wound screaming. His mandibles clacked. "Yes. Many. They will not stop. Your world will be tested. Consumed. Kara swore under her breath, clutching Scout. Then what the hell do we do? Grask turned toward the window, staring at the approaching fleet. He should have felt despair. Even uninjured, he could not fight so many. The KLYTH would not relent. But when he looked down and saw Scout's teeth bared, tiny body braced to fight an army, he felt something else instead. Resolve. He placed a clawed hand against the window frame. You fight together. Kara shook her head. We don't have weapons. Not like you. Not like them. You have more. The words surprised even him. But he knew them to be true. The ships landed in the valley, their engines rumbling like war drums. KLYTH hunters poured out, dozens this time, weapons gleaming, mandibles clattering in anticipation. At their head strode another high hunter, taller than Vaer, armored like a living fortress. His voice carried like thunder. Earth belongs to the KLYTH. Humans will be trophies. Grask, traitor, show yourself. Grask stepped onto the porch, Kara and Scout behind him. He bled openly, his body weakened, but his stance was unyielding. I have learned what you cannot, he roared back. Strength is not in dominance. It is in loyalty. In pack. The hunters laughed, their mandibles screeching mockery. But Kara's voice cut through them. Pack means we don't run, she shouted, rifle in hand. You want to take us? You'll find out why Earth doesn't break. The high hunter sneered. Bold words from prey. And then the forest moved. Dozens of eyes gleamed in the shadows. Not human eyes, wolf, coyote, stray dogs drawn by Scout's furious barks that had carried for miles. They poured from the trees in a wave of fur and teeth, surrounding the cabin, snarling in defiance. Scout barked at the front, tail high, rallying them like a general. The KLYTH froze. Predators themselves, they recognized the shift in the hunt. This was no lone prey. This was a pack. Grask's mandibles spread in something close to a smile. The battle that followed was chaos unlike any he had ever seen. Hunters clashed with claws and blades, but they were swarmed by snapping jaws, darting bodies, relentless assaults. Wolves hamstrung armored legs. Strays leapt onto backs, dragging down giants. Scout himself darted through the fray, nipping, dodging, barking commands like a war chief. And the humans came too. Not just Kara, neighbors who had heard the commotion arrived with shotguns, hunting bows, even farm tools. They fought beside the dogs, beside Grask, beside one another. The KLYTH had expected easy trophies. Instead, they found themselves drowned in resistance. Grask moved among them like a storm, his wounds forgotten, his claws fueled by something new. For the first time, he was not hunting for pride. He was fighting for his pack. Hours later, when the last KLYTH ship fled in defeat, the valley lay strewn with broken weapons and smoldering soil. The humans stood panting, battered but alive. The dogs circled them, tails wagging, tongues lolling, triumphant. Grask knelt in the center of it all, his body shaking with exhaustion. Kara approached, Scout at her side, and placed a hand on his shoulder. You saved us, she said softly. Grask shook his head. No. We saved each other. Kara smiled through the dirt and sweat. Welcome to the pack, Bugman. Scout barked once, as if sealing the bond. Grask looked at the small creature, then at the humans gathering around, and felt something he had never known, belonging. He had spent centuries proving he was the strongest predator in the galaxy. Yet strength alone had never given him this. The KLYTH would return someday, of that he had no doubt. But Earth was not what they believed. It was not a planet of fragile prey. It was a world of packs. Of bonds. Of creatures who stood together, no matter the odds. And when they returned, they would not find humans alone. They would find humans, and their dogs. Grask rose, mandibles clicking softly in what might have been a laugh. The strongest predator in the galaxy had come to hunt. Instead, he had been hunted. By loyalty, by love, by the simple, unbreakable bond between a human and her dog. And in that bond, He had found something greater than victory. He had found a home.